Well, it's time to look back at events in January in the Isle of Man, and a big website, the Facebook group, should I say, Isle of Man News and Politics, is where a lot of movers and shakers put their opinions out. James Corran is one of the guys looking after that. James, thanks for joining us. Quite a busy January, really, wasn't it?
Yes, and the biggest issue on Isle of Man News and Politics has, and I would suggest to you on most of the social networking sites in January, has been the abortion bill. It's attracted a lot of emotional debate, and really, it's, to be quite frank with you, it's perhaps one of the most important pieces of legislation that a modern government has had to deal with, or a modern parliament has had to deal with for decades.
And as a media, we got sucked into this because there was quite a few people who disagreed that we should even talk to the people who are the Abort 67 group. To me, of course, it's freedom of speech, and people have to be heard, whatever we think about them. What do you think to that?
Well, I think with freedom of speech comes responsibility, and these people were entitled to do their lobbying and to do their demonstration. But where I think they went wrong is they displayed graphic images around our capital city as such, graphic images of which were horrible, of aborted babies and this sort of thing. Whether they were made up images, I don't know, but I equate that to, similarly, if anybody that's pro-pornography was to display graphic images of people copulating, that's just as bad, and I'm very surprised that the authorities didn't get them to remove it, because young women, young children seen these pictures, and they were upsetting to a lot of people, and I felt that was perhaps an insult to public decency, to be quite frank with you.
And your Facebook group was absolutely full of it, wasn't it? People expressing their opinions.
Oh, yes, they did. People expressed their opinions, but the majority of the opinions were basically in favour of what I've just told you. And we did, my team and I, admins, we did do our best to ensure that both sides got their point of view. But there was very little response, actually, from the pro-life people, or the people that are against abortion. I think they realised that if they went on social media, they'd just be taken to the cleaners. And to be honest with you, they basically were, whether they were present in the media sites or not.
Well, whatever people thought, looking at our numbers, it had the most views of any subject this month. And the debate goes on, of course, as we go into February.
Well, thankfully now the bill has been passed its second reading, and Mr. Chris Robertshaw, is it, MHK, he tried to move it into a select committee stage. The question I ask is, after all the consultation and the fact that we have a legislative council that reviews legislation, why should he want it to go to committee stage? This was, although he said to the contrary, this man was just trying to stall it. And that's what you do. Any parliament that wants to throw something into the bushes, they send it to a select committee, because they know there it gets buried into a bottomless pit. And I'm glad that the House of Keys actually had the guts to throw out Robertshaw's motion to throw this bill to a select committee. What would a select committee have done? There's been a consultation. There's various groups, doctors, medics on both sides being consulted. So what would a select committee have done? The bill is now in its second stage, which is the clauses. So let's get on with it.
And yet he did get some support. Was it 4 or 5, I think, wasn't it? So there were a few people there also supporting it.
Yes, he got 4 or 5 dinosaurs to support him. Yes, and to be quite frank with you, I just cannot understand the mindset of these people. And I believe they're all men as well. I think all the ladies in Tynwald, with the exception of Kate, who wasn't there, I think all the ladies in Tynwald voted for it to just go straight to the third reading. But it was the men that decided to have a committee.
Let's move on, because Kate Beecroft obviously made the news as well, being asked to stand down. Well, she resigned. Then it became clear that if she didn't resign, she was going to be taken out of office. That generated some traffic as well, no doubt. People having views on this.
Yes. Well, Kate Beecroft was... we're talking about Kate Beecroft resigning from the health service, yes?
Yes.
Well, the problem there is we still don't know the reason why Kate Beecroft tried to get her departmental members over a year ago to sign a letter of no confidence in the CEO, Dr. Couch. And this is another example of covert government. We're not told. We need to know why she tried to do that a year ago, which resulted in Rob Collister resigning from the department. What was her problem? And there's problems with the hospital. We all know that. But the minister doesn't seem to, in all honesty, to have been addressing it. But then, of course, Howard Quayle says that he asked her to resign, but he hasn't even actually explained to the people why. And, the people need to know what's going on inside the ministries of this island, but we're not told. We're not told the background stuff, and I think we have a right to know. I think, to be honest with you, we don't have an open government. I think it's disgraceful.
Well, it's interesting to say that. We have freedom of information now. Haven't you yourself tried that route to get the stuff you want to hear about?
No, I haven't. The likes of Charles Lewin and other people have. But I would suggest to you this, that the Freedom of Information Act we have on the Isle of Man, the way it's worded, to be quite frank with you, there's that many get-out clauses for government. There is no such thing as true freedom of information, the way I see it, because they hang on to data protection, commercial confidentiality, all that usual, what I would call claptrap, which is what government does to get out of answering anything, Paul.
Okay. Well, one way that the people hear things is through the media. Manx Radio's back in the headlines in the sense of now there's going to be another review into its funding. What's your take on that?
I don't have an objection to Manx Radio being scrutinised as such, but I do think what we've got to accept, whether you like it or love it or hate it, Manx Radio is the national broadcasting station. And to be fair, Energy FM and 3FM are in no way in the same league as Manx Radio. Manx Radio provides cultural news and all the rest of it, and it needs money to run. The problem we have got, actually, is the fact that there's that many hundreds of thousands of money going to the BBC and TV licenses, and the likes of Jersey, they get it back because they have Jersey BBC. But we on the Isle of Man, we get nothing back from the BBC to support our own national broadcasting station. And the BBC does not actually cover the Isle of Man properly for news and current affairs. So, where money is being drained into the BBC, and Manx Radio is getting a subvention from the government. And the problem we've got, our government, to be quite frank, they just haven't got the teeth to take the BBC on.
Okay, well, talking about government finally, MLCs are in the headline. Of course, it's going to be in March when they actually take the vote. But what's your take so far? I mean, as we're recording this, about 16 names have come forward for the 4 positions, or 5 is it now? Because we got an extra one. But I mean, what's your take? People have interest in being an MLC in government?
Well, the way I see it is that you say there's 16 names, but the people of the Isle of Man don't know who these people are. I know there is one of them, MLC Poole, her name is, the lady. She was just appointed a year ago by the Keys, or less than a year ago. She's wanting to stand again, that's fine. And now a former councillor, is it John Skinner? He wants to stand again, so he's been named, and that's in social media now. But as for the other 14, we haven't got a clue, because, as I say, it's all secret, isn't it?
Okay, well, names come on it and come off it, so I'm not going to go them all at a minute as we record this, because it's still open for debate. But my point was, do you think it shows you there's a massive level of interest in people wanting to be part of the government, part of Tynwald?
I think there's a few people that want to be part of Tynwald, but if they search their souls, shouldn't they just do the decent thing and stand to be elected by the people and not just be appointed by the House of Keys for a cosy job, which basically they have 2 sittings a month, maybe sit on a few committees, and they're getting £1,000 a week. I think it's disgraceful.
Okay, John, as always, you have an opinion, and I appreciate you sharing it with us today. If people want more, they should go to your Facebook group, right, and they can join?
Yes, Isle of Man News and Politics. Anybody can apply to join.